is Courage Barbell, and I'm your host, Chad Ikes. Today, I want to do an episode on one of my favorite things, but first, I'm going to be honest as I always am with you guys. This is my third attempt at shooting this video. I guess I put off some kind of electrical energy or something that completely messes with electronics and computer stuff. So I've been having troubles with my mics and all kinds of crazy shit. So this is my third attempt, and hopefully this works. Keep your fingers crossed. But today I want to talk about one of my favorite things, which is sled dragging. I'm glad it's finally starting to get a little warmer so we can get outside and do a lot more sled dragging. Sled dragging is one of the best recovery, GPP, even cardio things you can do. One of the problems as powerlifters that we have is we stay too static. We don't move enough. We don't get out enough. I've seen super heavyweight guys that can't seem to walk a couple hundred feet without sucking wind. And if they could get out here and do this, it's going to make them stronger. It's going to make them healthier, which is going to extend their careers. It's just a great thing to do. It's great to get outside, get some sun. A little overcast today, but I'm hoping it clears up as we go. So let me start by saying, right now you can't see it, but I'm dragging an Elite FTS sled, which is one of my favorite sleds because the center pin that the plates go on unscrews. So if you have limited space or you train Courage Barbell, right now is a garage gym, and so space is at a premium. With these sleds, I can have 3 sleds, put one down and stack the other ones right on top of it. If you had minimal space, you could easily have an area where you could lean it against the wall or create a little cabinet where you could just stick that one sled, taking the pin off. The other thing I want to talk about is Spud Inc. I'm not sponsored by Spud Inc., but he actually is a friend of mine, and I know he makes great products. So this is why I use his stuff. This is the Spud Inc. dragging strap, which I'll tell you right now, I dragged sleds for years with just my belt, and it worked just fine. But the strap is so much more comfortable. It conforms around your midsection, which allows, I think, for better practice of bracing while you're doing this. If you have multiple guys pulling sleds, and if you do it like I do it, where we may have a couple sleds, we may have a prowler, a couple sleds, and a farmer's carry, or just some kind of carry. So I got guys switching around from implements. This strap is so much easier for them to just loosen the cinch, take it off, put it back on. They can switch it out easy and quickly, which is something we really want to do when we're out here working on recovery and GPP, is to keep moving and keep active. We don't want a lot of resting in between there. So what I'm going to do here, since I'm filming by myself, I'm just going to go over a lot of different ways to drag, things that you need to pay attention to. And then when I get done with all that, I'll go over how I implement sled work, because there's actually a lot of different ways you can. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to see if I can slide this on without messing up my microphone. You can see Spud Inc. dragging strap goes right on. I'll just pull it tight. Bam, we're ready to go that fast. So we're not curing cancer. We're not sending rockets to Mars here. We're just getting stronger. It's actually a pretty easy thing. So, but there is a lot of science to it and a lot of things you need to think about while you're doing it. First thing, when we're forward dragging, remember intent. Here at Courage Barbell, we do everything with intent. If you're moving, you should move with intent. So when we're dragging, one of the things we really want to work on is we want to work on pushing against this belt and bracing that core really hard and everything that goes with it. So dropping your rib cage down into your pelvic floor, pushing out against the belt. You want to try to keep your hips parallel to the ground. We don't want a lot of shifting or moving like this. We want to keep everything pretty uniform and straight. And then when you're dragging, you want to drag with intent. So you're going to pull that foot up, stick it out. When you hit the ground, you want to spread those toes, root that arch, root that foot, and then pull yourself forward. Like actively think about pulling yourself forward. Now, I know that a lot of guys go, well, you shouldn't have to think when you walk, it should be habit. Well, a lot of you guys already lost the habit and your movement patterns are all screwed up. So for a little while, you are going to have to focus on it, and over time, it will become natural again, as it should be. There's a lot of things like footwear that have actually reversed our natural, proper movement patterns. So since one of the times I shot this video, I was losing microphone when I was turning around. So I'm going to talk a little bit as I'm going, but I'm basically going to come back here to do most of the talking, but I'm going to demonstrate what it looks like to do a forward drag. So when you're dragging forward, push the brace out, and you're going to hold this brace the whole time. One of the really good things about this is that if you're a strongman or you're an athlete, this is really going to help you differentiate between bracing and breathing, which are two different things. And you need to learn to brace while you're breathing. Power lifter, not so necessary. I can hold my breath during a squat for 1 rep. Carrying farmer's walk, running down a field, getting ready to hit somebody, it needs to be more natural where I can continue to breathe while I'm doing that. So I'm going to start with a little stagger step, big brace. I'm thinking about keeping the hips parallel to the ground. All my movements are very concentrated, very focused. I should probably do this with everyone, but I do it more with athletes where you're really using the arms when we walk to keep simulating that running and get them in the habit of not doing this, but doing this in a straight line. That's forward dragging, very simple. Now we're going to do backward dragging. The biggest thing with the reverse dragging is that you don't want to just lean straight back against the sled. You actually want to squat down. Let me back up a little bit here. You actually want to squat down a little bit, keep your back upright, maybe even leaning forward a little bit, and then really push off with your feet. We're really working the hip flexors and the thighs on this one. So, follow me down. So right now I'm going to get a little bit of a squat. Hard brace out against the belt, and this will actually help cue you to be pushing in the back. We push 360 degrees on a brace. And again, I'm really paying attention to where my hips are. And then I'm not shifting this way and I'm not shifting this way. You're always going to get a little bit, but you want to keep that to a minimal and stay tight while you're doing that. Next, we're going to move to a side drag. And again, spud belt, one of the great things is I can just do this with my regular belt and having it somewhat tight. You always had it seem like you had to adjust it more. One of the main things on a side drag, I'm going to back up a little bit right here. A lot of people tend to not go in a straight line with their feet. They'll be at a kind of a diagonal where we want to be perfectly perpendicular from the sled, and we want our feet lining up in that direction. So we don't want to be like this, and we don't want to be pulling like this. We want to keep everything in a very straight line. I also like to get down and squat down just a little bit in this one. You can see little squat, hips aren't rocking back and forth or moving or twisting, keeping my feet in a straight line, heading all the way perpendicular to the direction, or heading straight in the direction I'm going perpendicular to the sled. Next one I like to do, and I can't even really remember the name of this one. I think we called it like karaoke or something. Back into football days, where you do a crossover with your feet. Same principles as side dragging. We're just moving the feet a little different. I actually really like this one. It's great for athletes, but I really like this one for powerlifters who tend to stay very stagnant doing movements where they're not actually moving. We need to get out and do athletic movements, even if we're powerlifters, to just get those joints moving in all the possible planes they can. The importance of bracing is I'm bracing this whole time. I'm not really paying attention to my breathing, which is why I'm a little winded. Plus, I'm always better at the end of the summer than I am coming off of winter. We haven't been able to do much sled dragging this year so far. So, those are the main dragging movements with the belt. Now I'm going to switch over to straps, and I'm going to show you a couple different other ways that I like to also do the dragging. And again, just going to cinch this belt down, slide it off, and hopefully did that without messing up my lavalier. Well, kind of. I just pulled it out. All right, guys, I had a little, when I took my strap off, I pulled my lavalier mic off. So yeah, now I'm back. I had to do a little cut and edit there. So with the Spud strap, it's just a ring, and then I have a D-ring on my strap from the sled. So we're gonna pull that off. I'm gonna give that a little toss over there. I'm gonna cinch the D-ring back down. Then what I'm gonna do is now we have an Elite FTS strap. And this is a dragging strap made specifically for dragging. And the great thing about this is they have big loops in them. A lot of ones have small loops. You want the big loops because we're going to put these around our ankles. So I'm going to slide this through the D-ring. Then without falling over, hopefully, I'm going to slide this around my ankles. There's one. And two. Look at that balance. So one of the first things we're going to do with this one is we're going to do forward sled dragging with the straps around our ankles. I actually came across this one because when I first started actually squatting properly and sitting back into the right position and utilizing my posterior chain, I started having some hip flexors. I noticed how weak they were and they get sore as hell. And then when I started my team and I started getting those guys going right, I noticed the same thing was happening. So we started doing these forward drags a couple days a week. Bam. Like within a few weeks, we were all noticing the difference. All of our hip flexors got stronger. We were coming out of the hole and off the box better. We had a whole lot less pain in our hips. They were recovering way better. So this has kind of been a staple for all sled pulling for me since that time. When you start doing these, you're going to have a little bit of balance issues. So you want to make sure you start staggered. You're going to do a big pull with the back leg. You want to do a big pull, driving that knee way high and then extending it out, trying to take big, long steps. But remember, brace. You want to keep the hips tight, parallel to the ground. You don't want to do a lot of twisting, rotating. up and down with the hips. You want to keep everything really straight, and really, you're really walking with intent with this one. So I'm going to start staggered, just because it's a little easier that way. First step's usually a little weird. Once you get going, it's not as bad. So we're going to pull up and forward, up, forward, forward. Okay, I'm going to start staggered again to show you guys. Staggered, brace, keeping the hips tight, rooting the feet, and really pulling yourself forward. Pull, push. Get that hip driven up and stick it out. Hip up and stick it out. Hip up, stick it out. And of course, as you get better at this, you'll be able to go a little faster. But at first, I recommend just taking a slow pace, really focusing on the movement. Next, we're going to do backward dragging with the strap through our ankles. In this one, I think about this more like a reverse hyper. I'm trying to dorsiflex the foot up. I'm trying to pull the foot up, keep my knees straight, and extend the leg as if I was doing a one-legged reverse hyper. So, I'll show you this one. We get the sled straight, start with a stagger step, brace, pay attention to where my hips are, drive the leg back, drive the leg back. Again, get the strap straight and everything. Stagger step, brace. Somehow, I hooked my D-ring just right, and I actually was unscrewing it as I was going. So we're going to tighten that one up really quick. The next one of the things when you have the strap through your ankles, one quick thing is always make sure you go ahead and pay attention when you're turning the sled and you get all the tension out. Sometimes if you forget to get that tension out and you start, you'll lose your balance because you get that quick pull in that tension halfway through the movement. So I don't want anybody falling. The next one, we're going to do the sideways walk with the straps around the ankles. So this one I really like because if your right leg is the lead leg, you're really working your abductors, and then the inside leg is working the adductors, and then when you go back, you're working the opposite. But this is really great for hip stability and hip movement. So, again, these are all pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same rules you're following all the time. One thing on this one that I like to do is you can do it either way. Since the strap's around both ankles, what I like to do is I like to have my lead leg, the strap for the lead leg in front of my back leg. So as you see, I just stepped over the strap. Same thing, we're going to squat down. We're going to get the brace. We're going to focus on where our hips are. Just another cue for right now. We usually do there and back, which I'll go over here in a little bit. When you're doing these sideways ones, always make sure you work the same. You face the same direction. That way, we're working opposite sides. as in going down that way, my left leg was my lead leg. Now coming back, my right leg is my lead leg. And again, I'm going to take this leg and step behind the strap. And on this one, really make sure you're not loading it up too heavy. Like, you don't want it so heavy that you're going, really trying to make that step. You need to kind of, I mean, your hips are going to move no matter what, but you need to be in a good position where you can just focus on abducting that leg out there. Okay. KKK, let me get my foot out of here. Now I like to mix this up a little bit with some different kind of drags. When we have the belt on, the pull is from just below our trunk. So we don't get as much tension throughout our core or our back. So in order to fix that, I like to drag with the double strap, which is strap from the sled and then this other strap through there. So what I'll do is I'll take these straps over my shoulders and I'll hold them down at my side. So now instead of the pull coming from the belt in my midsection, the pull is coming from the top. So what this is going to do is just going to force me to stabilize with my core a little more, having the pull at the top, and it'll actually work the front of my abs and my obliques a little bit. So looks just like this. Something like that. Then I also like to do the reverse of that, where I'll basically throw one strap over one shoulder, the other strap over the other shoulder, and then I'll actually cross them behind my back. Then I'll hold them down here at my side. And again, what this is going to do is this is going to pull from upwards of my chest. So it's going to work my back a little more while I'm working my thighs and hip flexors with the backward drag. Okay, that is pretty much all the exercises we do for the lower body sled day. So how do we put that all together? Well, there's some different theories on that. I have, especially over at Elite FTS, I have a lot of friends that'll do sled dragging for varying distances. If they're inside, it's going to depend on how far their building is. If they're outside, it still depends on how much room you have. I don't really think that there is a set distance that's going to work for you. For me, I have, across from my house, I have a fence that's 150 feet long. So we generally base everything off of those 150-foot strips or trips, however you want to look at it. And I've seen guys that set up just like weightlifting, they'll set up here, I want you to do this drag this many times. I'm not really a big fan of that one. I more prefer to go for time because I use sleds a lot for recovery work and for GPP. So my goal is like, listen, I want them to get in a hard 20 minutes, a hard 25 minutes, get their heart rate up, get moving, get blood flowing and pumping without really exaggerating so much stress on the muscles. I want to pump, but I don't want complete exhaustion, because we did that the day before usually. So what I do, one of my favorite sessions is 20 minutes. I'll set my timer for 20 minutes. I want them doing 150 front drag, 150 front drag. So down and back. Times like now where everybody's a little bit out of shape because of getting through winter, I'll have them, they can take a little rest at each end, but I'm usually on them to like, come on, let's go, let's get done. And so one down and back and forward, down and back and reverse. Then down and back and forward, down and back and reverse. Then we'll go full distance side dragging down, full distance side dragging back. Then we'll go full distance down of the crossover, cross step, and then back. Then what we'll do is we usually cut it down to halfway, half the distance, so 75 feet. Then we'll put the straps on. You do forward dragging half, forward dragging back. Then you do backward dragging, straps to the ankles, halfway down, halfway back. Then you'll do the side halfway down, halfway back. Now, if they're done and have time left over, then we'll do they'll do a forward down and reverse back with the straps over their shoulders. And of course, if they get done, if I have to, I'll send them through the whole loop again till 20 or 25 minutes is up, whichever one I choose to do on that day. So if they don't get it all done, that's fine. I mean, it's not fine. It's fine. I'll deal with it for that day. But I want to know why. You should at least be able to get, in 20 minutes, you should be able to get the forward, the reverse, the forward, the reverse. So that's 4 total trips. Then the side all the way down, side all the way back, crossover all the way down, crossover all the way back. And then the 3 with the strap going halfway around the ankles, which is the forward, the reverse, and the side. You should definitely be able to get all that done in 20 minutes. I think it took me like 21 minutes yesterday just because I was taking a little bit of time because it's my first, still getting in shape after winter basically. So there's lots of different ways to do it. The important thing is to get out, start dragging a sled, get the muscles pumping. Like a lot of guys, especially with the backward drag, their thighs get pumped good. But really, how much stress did we put on the muscle? You know, it's more cardiovascular. 15 or 20 minutes after they're done, they feel fine, which is the idea. But let's talk about weight on the sled now. All sleds are different. The surface you're pulling on is different. So I could tell you, yeah, we normally do 2 or 3 plates for the front drag. Then when we go to around ankles, we'll drop to 1 plate, maybe 1 plate and a quarter. But that might not work for you. I'm dragging a metal sled on asphalt. I also have some tires as sleds. You cannot put the same weight on a tire. It'll be way the hell harder. And then the more you go with the tire and the hotter the tire gets, the stickier it gets, so the harder it is to drag. You could have a metal sled on AstroTurf, which is going to pull way easier than what this one is, so you may need a little more weight. I'm going to tell you right now, another great Spud piece of equipment. I don't even have this one yet, but I know it's a great piece of equipment. I've seen a lot of people using it and had friends use it. He makes a sled out of basically the belt material, but it's a full wide sled that'll hold a plate or plates. And it's great for dragging on grass or AstroTurf. It doesn't do any damage. It's easy to carry around. I mean, you could throw a plate in your trunk of your car and a sled and go to the park and just drag on the grass, and you're not going to do any damage at all. But my point being, if you're pulling a prowler, if you have a prowler, so you're pushing and pulling a prowler has less surface because it has 3 pads instead of a sled. So it drags different on whatever surface you're dragging on. So just keep that in mind when you're picking your weight. Again, every now and then we'll come out here and pull sled for max effort work, or we'll try to pull really heavy sleds for maybe supplemental work. But most of this stuff that I'm using it for is GPP, recovery, just to come out and work the muscles and get the heart going. So I'm not trying to kill anybody with weight. I'm more worried about, can they start dragging more and getting in better shape? So then you go back to, well, how do you know, say over the summer, you know, what are your goals to do that? If you're not really worried about weight, what's the goal? Well, the goal is if you can add some more weight, that's awesome. You know, if you're working at 2 plates and at the end of the summer you're pulling 3 for the same distance, same amount of time, that's perfect. I'm more concerned with how much work can we get done in terms of distances in the same 20 minutes. So maybe when we start, the guy, or I have a new client, he can do the forward dragging and get halfway through the dragging through his ankle. Okay, well then within a couple months, I want him to be able to do the whole thing in 20 minutes. Then I want him to be able to add in the strap work in 20 minutes. Then eventually I want him to go 20 minutes where it's like, oh dude, I gotta give you more exercises, or finish that whole process and then start over, and keep seeing how much more work we can get in the same amount of time. Can we cut those little breaks down in between? When I get going, I can do everything. I can go for 20, 25 minutes without ever stopping. Like I pull it down to the end and my rest is literally turning the sled around and it's back. And that's the goal, is to just go for 20 or 25 minutes nonstop at a good pace. I also do incorporate some running stuff in here, but that's mostly for my athletes or once my lifters get more advanced and they're really getting through this stuff well. But that'll be a whole different video later on down the road. All right, guys, that wraps up lower body. I'm gonna go ahead and test your guys' knowledge, and I'm gonna put a part 2 in here, but I'm gonna wear the same clothes, but I'm probably gonna tell you it's a different day. No, just kidding. So I'm gonna do his upper body. Don't forget, you can do a ton of work with upper body sleds, and it is awesome, awesome, awesome recovery work. Guys, please like this channel. Please subscribe to this channel. Please hit the little thumbs up button. Please hit the alert button so that you know when I'm putting out new videos. Please share these videos. I really want this to grow. I really want to get to a point where financially I can make the time to shoot more videos, get more information out there, and help you guys out, help me out, and everybody grows and gets stronger. And we're utilizing the time that we put into training and getting the biggest return we can out of that time. That's a big deal to me. Courage, having the courage to set goals and to reach those goals. And don't go into the gym just jerking off. Go into the gym with intent. Lift with intent. Your training's with intent. Your goals are made with intent. Your movements are done with intent. I'm out of here, guys. Have a good day. Try this sled stuff. If you need a sled, you know, you can get an old tire. I cut a little hole in mine, put a D-ring through it, hook a strap up to it, you're good to go. Cheap. Doesn't cost much money. If you have a few bucks, man, the Spud strap, dragging strap is awesome. The Elite FTS sled really isn't that expensive. You get a couple straps and you're ready to go. And it's one piece of cheap piece of equipment, or I should say inexpensive piece of equipment. It's gonna last you a long, long time. You can do a ton of stuff with it, especially if you're a home gym, or even if you train at a regular gym, but you have time getting to the gym. If you get a sled, now you can do all your recovery sessions at home. And it's easy. And if you have kids, trust me, they're gonna wanna come out and drag with you. I've drug in so many different subdivisions, and the biggest problem I have dragging in subdivisions is not people complaining about it, but all the kids that wanna help me. My 20-minute dragging session is 20 minutes of me dragging, then another 40 minutes of me out showing the kids how to do it and letting all of them try it. Seriously, it's pretty funny actually. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Have a great day. Goodbye.